Hi and welcome. And thank you for joining me as I thank Dr. Richard Schwartz for creating the internal family systems method of therapy and share with you how it's infused in everything that I do. So when I talk about compassionate communication and when I talk about compassionate mediation, I'm really talking about self-leadership, understanding your parts and other people's parts, and communicating from your highest and best self. So welcome. I want to jump right in and talk a little bit about what is internal family systems. And what it is, it's a transformative, evidence-based psychotherapy that helps people heal by accessing and loving their protected and wounded inner parts. We also have a core self, and we'll be talking about the self. The self is in everyone. It can't be damaged, and it knows how to heal. And in IFS, healing happens when people access their self, and from that core, they understand and heal their parts. And IFS creates an inner and an outer connectedness. So I have used that, and in my compassionate communication training, what I do is help people become connected to their best self, let go of the limiting beliefs and judgments that they have about themselves or someone else, unburden pain from the past, and relate from their heart. So compassionate communication uses the tenets of IFS to access self, to help your parts that are managing or getting extreme or reacting or judging, to help you stay in the present and heal from the past. And instead of talking to people from your head or your reactive parts, you learn how to communicate from your heart, your spirit, your soul. And also in compassionate mediation, that's an opportunity to learn compassionate communication, but to take it into mediation. And what does that mean? Well, mediation, it's not just for divorce. It's a way to come from your highest and best self as you mediate between your own parts and help them communicate better. And you help communicate with the parts of someone else in your life, whether it's your partner, someone you work with, a child, a parent. It can be used in all those situations because you're learning compassionate communication and you're learning how to be your best self. So what does it mean to be in self? Well, IFS has a few ways of looking at it. It's that aspect of us that's calm, clear, compassionate, curious, connective, creative, confident, courageous, and I often add grateful. And you can meditate by prayer, by breath, by just remembering that you have one. Because you do. We all have a healthy self. And the way I often describe it is that our egos keep crashing into things, but our soul is always peace. And as Rumi said, we're not just the drop in the ocean, we're the entire ocean in the drop. So even though our personalities, our managing parts react in certain ways and get triggered, when we get to our highest self and communicate from there, we tap into the oneness that we all experience when we're in self. So one of the ways that IFS describes parts is taken from the IFS website. So when a person has been hurt, humiliated, frightened, or shamed in the past, he or she will have parts that carry the emotions, memories, and sensations from those experiences, making it so easy to be healthy. What that means is, what I tell people is that the exiles are the parts that we learned in childhood weren't going to get our needs met. So if we felt hurt, sad, or scared, we push those aside. And we often go out in the world and we manage. And they say manage want to keep those feelings of the exiles out of consciousness. And instead of being vulnerable, they keep our vulnerable parts locked away. And those incarcerated parts that are locked away are the exiles, because it isn't so easy to be healthy when the managers are taking over. But what the firefighters do, and I now call them extreme parts, what the firefighters do are parts of you that are impulsive and strive to find stimulation that helps you disassociate from the feelings of the exiles. So binging, using addiction, different ways to numb are firefighter behaviors. The way I introduce it in my office is this way. It's a little different, but very similar. I tell people we have a healthy self. And when we're in self, we're calm, clear, and compassionate. But we're not always in self. We're often in parts. So those parts are the exiles, managers, and I use extreme instead of firefighters. And again, when we were hurt, sad, scared, vulnerable, we pushed aside those feelings. Some of us pushed aside our anger too, but we exiled those parts of ourselves and sometimes wonder, what about me? This is often associated with our inner child. Who's going to love and care for me the way I need? And instead, we go out in the world and we manage. And we can manage a lot of different ways. We can be angry, critical, caretaking, intellectual. There's a lot of ways to manage. But we often put on what I call a pseudo-self, what Dick calls a pseudo-self, like we're calm, clear, and compassionate, but we're really feeling a lot of these feelings underneath. And then again, as those exiles start to make those feelings need felt and the managers can't contain them, out come extreme or firefighting behaviors to numb you. So you go get addicted, you get depressed, you get gambling or panic attacks or rage or shopping or put walls around your heart. These are all different ways to numb. And the way that often looks in my office is that instead of having the ability to relate from self, we've got people warring in divorce or in communication because they don't have the ability to be empathetic and connect and listen to each other from their highest and best self. So compassionate mediation allows people to get to their best self. And as it's an opportunity to connect, it's also an opportunity to learn how to compassionately communicate, to maintain that higher self, to look at the beliefs that are keeping you locked in a situation, and acknowledge that the pain from your past, from your family of origin, is often affecting how you're showing up in the present. But as you learn to do that, you can create a new relationship. Because in that new relationship, you can begin to have conversations to peacefully restructure your family, to give your children emotional security, to create a safe forum for honest discussion. And if you separate or get divorced, you can have two independent homes. But when you're having a self-led conversation and you talk about all your issues, including sex, including parenting, including division of labor in the home, including what your needs are, when you can talk about it from your highest and best self, you often can create a new relationship because you learn how to be empathetic. You learn how to interact with calm, clarity, confidence, and most of all, compassion. And then you can have a dialogue without the exorbitant expensive attorney fees or court costs. And if you do get divorced, you can create a positive relationship moving forward where you create two loving homes where your children feel comfortable rather than destroying a family. Because when I do an initial interview for either compassionate communication or compassionate mediation, I always try to find out what are the issues in the relationship. If they're thinking of divorce, what's the issue that's making it most relevant for them to be talking about it? I ask the magic wand question, which is, what do you hope will happen? And that takes them to their higher self, which I do in the first session, where they get in touch with what's their truth about what they hope will happen. Are they being reactive because they're not getting what they need? Or are they really coming from their highest and best self and asking for what they want? And I always ask about the family of origin, because when they talk about trauma in IFS, they often talk about the trauma that comes from your family of origin. And again, our parents did the best they knew how to do. However, when they don't come from their highest self, when they give us values that aren't in our highest good, what happens is we create a way of being in our relationship, and we just keep acting out those roles. So I like to look at this cartoon of children from functional families, because trauma is often related to a person's family of origin, values, and interaction patterns that create internal polarizations, which escalate over time and are played out in other relationships. So my quotes from the IFS website explain a little bit more how they describe trauma. And in the picture, which is kind of funny, is that there aren't a lot of functional families. Our parents do the best they know how to do. However, even in perfect families, the need to be perfect creates stress and strain. So learning that we bring into a relationship things that we learned in childhood, and learning how to heal our inner child, unburden the pain from the past, let go of limiting beliefs and relate from our heart, allows for self-to-self conversation. So again, compassionate mediation is a chance to educate yourself about your financial situation, because even if you create a new relationship together, you're going to do it with being fully informed. So you'll come from your best self, create a compassionate relationship, understand your options, know your finances and your rights, and then share your concerns and hopes with honesty. And you do it with self-leadership. And at the same time, it helps you become better co-parents, because you're going to learn how to listen with empathy and begin to have a peaceful, proactive parenting agreement that doesn't pit one parent against the other, leading to a lot of the stress and the heartbreak that a typical divorce looks like. So whether you're learning compassionate communication, whether you're learning compassionate mediation, what we're doing is trying to learn how to reduce stress by coming from our highest and best self. And I'm very grateful to all that I've learned from Dick. I put it all in my first book on compassionate mediation, and my courses I give now are approved by the Internal Coach Federation and the National Board of Certified Counselors for continuing education. But my thanks to Dick for what he wrote about my book and said that it's relationship healing at its best. And that's because I took everything that he taught me and put it into the compassionate communication program. And then I also wrote a book on compassionate divorce, because you can change the face of divorce one heart at a time. And that too is leading with a self-leadership that I call a self-led divorce. And what I mean by a self-led divorce is that you're each coming from your highest and best self and bringing that calm, compassionate, clear, confident, courageous, all those C words. You're bringing all that energy into your relationship. And I have a training that I've offered live at all the IFS conferences, and I'm offering it online now, at the tools for your practice, because the tools that I use in compassionate communication and compassionate mediation allow you to learn what I teach and get a roadmap of the process. So if you want to go to lindakroll.com roadmap, you'll get an overview of the compassionate mediation process, which includes the compassionate communication training and includes everything that I learned about being in self and understanding and unburdening your parts. And then if you'd like to, check out the compassionate mediation tools for your practice. I've given that at every workshop, and not every workshop, but every state that IFS has had a conference. And I've learned how to do it online, so I can give you the benefit of how I integrate IFS into compassionate mediation and compassionate communication. And I also want to send you to the IFS Institute website, where you can learn more about IFS and you can learn more about how to integrate this into your practice if you have a practice. And I also want to send you to lindakrollbook.com, which gives you a free chapter of everything that we're talking about right now. How to be in self, how to love your parts, and how to communicate compassionately. So let's all take a breath. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm grateful that you joined me. We don't want this kind of relationship going on in the world. We do want to have healing and have people, as Dick says, come out of their narrow protective perspectives and learn the larger lessons from their relationships and proceed based on the best interests of all concerned. And as I always say, love is the answer, but it starts with loving yourself. And learning how to love yourself allows you to stay in the present, to unburden the pain from the past, to let go of your limiting beliefs, and relate from your heart. And I just have to share with you, before I go, a couple of my own parts, just to help you understand a little better. This is me at the top as an inner child. And when I was young, my parents fought a lot. My father was a manic depressive. He was the funniest man in the world, but he was also a manic depressive. So I grew up being afraid of anger, and I learned how to exile my anger, and I learned how to manage. And the way I managed was, as I got married, I was a very high-functioning codependent. I knew how to please, I knew how to take care of, but I didn't know how to speak for what I wanted and needed. So the way I was managing wasn't in my highest good when it came time for separation and divorce, because I couldn't really speak my truth. And even though here I was 42 and it looks like I'm grown, this was really the part of me that was still taking care of everyone else. So just because we're grown up doesn't mean we outgrow the roles we learned in childhood. So what are your roles? What are your clients' roles? How do they exile? How do you exile? And how can you heal with IFS, compassionate communication, and compassionate mediation so that you can really show up in self? And someone drew this picture of me one time, because what are parts in IFS terminology? It's a person containing an ecology of relatively discrete minds, each of which has valuable qualities, and each of which is designed to and wants to play a valuable role within. So this is a picture a friend of mine drew of me when I was describing the way I manage. So I have a part that likes to share or teach. I have other parts that are thinking a lot, maybe some parts that are confused, some parts that are a little tired or stressed. And then this is one of my favorites. I just love this part of my manager who lets me know when she's exhausted and when she's had enough. So basically, I hope on some level that this is the sign you've been looking for to learn more about IFS, to learn more about compassionate communication, to learn more about compassionate mediation, and how it can both help you in your life and in your practice. Because in the trainings that I do, I give you the benefit of everything I've learned as a therapist, mediator, attorney, author, Chopra certified teacher of meditation, yoga, and Ayurveda. And I put it all together and give it to you so that you can give it to your clients. So check out the roadmap and learn the process. And join me, if you would, in the tools course where I can give you the benefit of all of this information. And then finally, I'd like to offer you my compassionate communication care kit. And what that is, it's an opportunity to get the guided meditation that I use in all my sessions to help people get to their best self. It's got a video on what compassionate communication is. It sends you to a relationship assessment where you can assess how much is self for you, how much do you understand your rights and responsibilities, how confident can you be in stating what you want and need, and you can begin to make positive changes in your relationship now. And then the last part of the care kit is the compassionate mediation roadmap. So it sends you to a blog post if you want to use it in your relationship. And it also sends you a video training, a free video training of the compassionate mediation process. So once again, I want to give my infinite gratitude to Dr. Richard Schwartz. My history was that I married my college sweetheart, and I became a lawyer. And when it looked like our relationship was ending, I became a mediator. And nothing seemed to click until I met Dick. And he taught me about self and parts. And I put it all together and created my own version of the compassionate communication process and the compassionate mediation process. So I'm standing on his shoulders and the shoulders of many of my IFS colleagues that I've learned from, and I want to share it all with you. So please join me in the compassionate communication community, because in the community, I give free trainings on compassionate communication and compassionate mediation. So join me in the compassionate communication.group, and just go to compassionatecommunication.group, and I'll see you in the group and continue to get to know you and share the benefits of my 35 years of studying with Dick Schwartz and integrating internal family systems, self-leadership, healing, and integration in my personal and professional life, so I can help you do the same. Thanks so much for joining me, and I look forward to staying connected. Bye for now.